You're listening to the JoFARA podcast hosted by Chris Lee. The JoFARA podcast helping people of color to level up.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Chris Lee's JoFARA podcast. We're doing something different this week. We're doing some video because we have our very first guest on this particular podcast series, Rick Ector. He is a keynote speaker, an expert witness, an author, a freelance writer, and most importantly, he is a guns rights advocate as well as a firearms instructor. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. You know, I did not know that this interview, this appearance was going to be your first video episode.
Yeah, first video episode, and you are actually my first guest. All of the other five or six episodes have been just me. Yeah.
Double,
yeah.
Well, I'm honored that you
absolutely. Yeah.
are making
it's something
important, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had to make this one real meaningful by having you on here as my good buddy. So
how long have we known each other, man? When did we first meet? How many years ago was that?
I'm going to say probably over 10 years.
Has
probably longer than probably 12 or 13 years.
I know I've known you for a spell, man. I'm just like really embracing the fact that I'm getting old. I'm looking at your beard, man. I'm like, yeah, okay. Last time I looked at you, I don't think you had so much gray there.
No, okay, man. Yeah. The gray comes in every week. There's a new one. Yeah, we met at one of Kaylin Risker's events, and this had to be probably 2010, 2011, if I'm guessing.
Yeah, she used to do things on a regular basis, and I know she would have some events, and you know, she's very nice woman, and I support her cause, and whenever she had something and I was available, I would definitely be there, and I know you would be there.
Oh, absolutely.
And there was a few other people that were, I guess, in our, you know, quote unquote crew that would always show up to help out. So yeah, I guess it has been that long.
Yeah, it was an array of superstars, if you will, looking back on who it was then and now.
Super
people like
friends.
Tammy Turner and friends. Sandra Epps. Exactly. Yeah, the super friends. That's what we call ourselves. Yeah. And you, over the years, have grown so much into who you are now. I see you on Fox and Friends, and I see you on Fox 2 sometimes. And a lot, there's controversy, which you don't seem to mind. You seem to just kind of soak it all up. There's controversy surrounding what you do or kind of who you stand for, which is a gun rights advocate. Now, traditionally, people always look at this kind of almost as a black and white issue, you know, when it comes to guns.
Like guns? You think?
Yeah.
Really?
But because most black people automatically side with Democrats or liberals and believe in gun control and believe that guns should be heavily legislated and outlawed. And you're not that guy.
No, I have an opposing viewpoint, and you know what? I don't know that I agree that everyone in the black community is negative per se against guns. I mean, there's a certain dynamic that exists there, man. I mean, if you go back, you know, historically, you know, with all the things that, you know, were issues in the black community, if you're talking about Jim Crow and racism and segregation and, you know, all those things. I mean, way back, you know, well before you, our parents and our grandparents were born. I mean, guns were, you know, pretty much a staple in the black community for a wide variety of reasons, including protection. So we've always had guns. You know, I think some of the things that we take issue with is, or some of the things that we disagree with on now currently is, well, some people have problems being responsible and lawful with firearms. And, you know, that's going to always be the case if you're talking about criminals and people who engage in that particular lifestyle. and there might be differences of opinion as to what we do about that, but I don't know if it's a fair statement to say that guns were taboo in the Black community. Now, I will tell you, I am an advocate for people who, if they feel that owning a firearm will enhance their personal safety, if they are responsible and they're willing to learn what the laws are and to follow them, by all means, definitely own a firearm and definitely carry one. And if necessary, carry it everywhere you legally may do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you had a really, really nice video. I'm assuming the NRA assisted with making that video, and it talked about, in the video you talked about some people think that the Second Amendment shouldn't apply or doesn't apply to people that look like you. First, give us the Cliff Notes version of what the Second Amendment is.
I mean, the Second Amendment is, it's to me personally, and the way I view it, it is obviously in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 rights enumerated in the Constitution. The very first right, the First Amendment, we all pretty much know what that is: the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, to be able to speak your mind, to air your grievances. The one thing about the First Amendment, man, is that, you have the freedoms to say whatever you want, but depending on what you say and who you say it to, there should be, or there probably will be, or it's possible. That's what I should say. It's possible that there may be consequences and repercussions. That line from the movie Life, right? Remember Life?
Yeah.
So, if you have problems with very powerful people like folks in the government, particularly all across the world, I think we take for granted freedom of speech, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just say hypothetically, and this is just purely hypothetical, let's just say I didn't like my local leadership in politics. I had an issue. Let's say I had an issue with the mayor or with the governor or with the president, right? Then obviously, if I made certain statements and the First Amendment wasn't protected, someone could come to my house, kick in my door, drag me out of my bed and lock me up indefinitely and probably try me in secret and probably convict me and punish me. We are so spoiled to have the rights that we do in this country, man, that we take them for granted.
Yes. But, that happens to people in other countries too.
Yeah, it does. And, we're so spoiled and insulated from what life is like in other places, because I truly believe that this is the best, my opinion, this is the best country in the world, and I would not want to live anywhere else. So, in my opinion, the framers, when they said, okay, you can air your grievances and say whatever you want to say, okay, take into account that when you have power structures like kings to appease and folks of that nature, you may need the Second Amendment to ensure that you have at least a fighting chance to defend yourself, even if that person is your very own government. So, I embrace the Second Amendment as a Black person, and I don't use the term person of color or any other term. For me, I'm as old as I am with all this gray. I'm a Black guy, right? And so as a Black guy, man, it's like I embrace the Second Amendment, and I carry a firearm any and everywhere I may legally do so. And when I was hearing your lead up, and you're talking about from the perspective of Black people, man, and the things that they're worried about, I'm worried about those very same things. I just don't get so fixated on necessarily the same thing. My fear is that some person, regardless of their affiliations, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their lifestyle, someone might take issue with me, man. And as a person who was the victim of a violent armed robbery at my own residence when I was coming home from work, say 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. I have seen crime up front and in person, and it wasn't committed against me by a person from outside my community. It wasn't committed against me by someone who didn't look like me, who looked like someone else. It was from someone who was a younger version of myself, who had the audacity to commit a violent crime against me for no other reason, because I was there and they wanted what they thought I had on my person, which, you know, was wallet, credit cards, cash, you know, anything that they saw that was of value. So like the framers, you know, envisioned, man, I don't have a particular boogeyman of choice. It's anybody. If there's anyone out there who's trying to hurt me or harm me or otherwise significantly violate me, man, I carry a firearm to defend myself. And you know, it's a lifestyle. I do it every day, all day, every place that I can do so legally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Now,
was I rambling on in a rant?
No. This is great. And I have a question. So, and this is more so a question about you and your character. When you experienced that violent crime that was committed against you, what made you flip the switch and say, I'm going to defend myself, protect myself? I know, because I know you, I lived in that same neighborhood. It was North Rosedale Park, right?
Yes, sir.
I used to live in North Rosedale Park. I lived there for a little over a year and I got out because in that year, my car was broken into, my car was stolen, and my airbags were stolen out of my car, my snowblower, my lawnmower, my kid's bike, and I just got out. I can't imagine going through what you went through. That would make me really, really angry. As a person, like, what clicked inside of you to make you say, you know what, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I am. I'm going to stay and protect myself and my family.
Man, that's an awesome question. I'm like thankful you asked it, because it really delves into my personal story, man. And I don't really talk about it much because I got so many other facets of this walk of life as a gun rights advocate. I never really have an opportunity to talk about it because we're usually talking about every other thing else under the sun that relates to gun. But in a way, man, I had a different lifestyle back then, man. I was married at the time and lived in North Rosedale Park, a nice community in Detroit. It wasn't, you know, the ritziest and the most exclusive community in Detroit. And, you know, we're on the internet, and who knows who's going to see this video, you know, from outside of Detroit or outside the state. But it may surprise some people that there are some really nice looking, great, beautiful communities inside the city of Detroit, man. And North Rosedale Park is one of them. It wasn't the most, you know, ritziest and most exclusive, because, you know, there were some places at the time, and still at this moment, some places where, you know, at the time I did not have enough money to move into. But for where I was at that time, man, it was a nice enough community, and I knew that I wanted to live in a community like that, man. Nice homes, and they had a community organization. They had got a community, this nice community building, resource facility.
Beautiful building, yeah.
So, man, I really bought into the community and the neighborhood, and I was like, okay, you know, I went to college and graduated. I majored in industrial engineering, got a decent job with one of the big three, and man, you know, life was good, man. And one day, well, let me just say this before I get into that, but I did not really embrace the Second Amendment as wholeheartedly as I do now. You know, as a matter of fact, during that era, I only owned a shotgun, man. And the only reason I owned the shotgun was because there were some elders in my family, you know, the men, and they were like, look, man, hey, homeowner, family man, wife, kids, dog. I had a dog too, man. Wow. It's amazing how I forgot about him. God bless his soul. But, you are the protector of your family, man, and you are their covering. You have to ensure that they are safe. You need to make sure that you have the means and the ability to do so. And so we had started having a conversation about, being the protector of the home, man. And I was sufficiently convinced and motivated to at least buy a 12 gauge shotgun. And I went out, man, where did I go? I bought, it was like a major shopping center, man. It wasn't a gun shop. It was like a retailer, like maybe, was it Kmart or something? I don't know,
Kmart
man.
Used to sell guns.
It was Kmart. So some people are probably like, wow, you bought a gun from Kmart?
Right.
I'm like, man, this story is going back a ways. So I remember, going and buying the gun, and it was in this long box. And, I know it was kind of funny going through the experience of buying it because they had all these various different protocols to actually get this long box of gun parts because, the gun wasn't assembled, it was in a box. And, and I had never, held a 12 gauge shotgun and it's in pieces. And I'm like, man, this is going to be fun. Like, go home and put together this little puzzle. So luckily for me, I had an uncle who worked for Detroit Police Department. I called him up, man, and he came over, and he was much more fluent, shall I say, with firearms. And he just opened the box and just put the thing together, all these pieces in like 5 minutes. And then he started telling me, hey, this is how you load it, and this is how, if ever you have to use it, put it, right here in your shoulder to catch all the force and just aim it in the general direction, and let it fly, and that was my introduction to, having a gun in the house. In terms of being a huge advocate of the Second Amendment and a big supporter of firearms like I am today, no, man, owning a handgun, didn't really think about it. I mean, at that time, I could have legally purchased a handgun and have owned a handgun, and it would have been one of those propositions that I would have just had it in the house. I wasn't at that time even considering open carry of a handgun or open carry of a long gun. And plus, back around the era when I got robbed, man, we didn't even have a shell issue, concealed carry and concealed pistol licenses. As a matter of fact, there was quite a few things that we take for granted in the law that weren't law in the state of Michigan. I mean, we didn't even have stand your ground back when, I first bought this 12 gauge shotgun. But yeah, man, it was in the house. It was assembled. I knew how to load it. I knew how to unload it. I allegedly knew how to shoot it, but I never shot it. Looking back on it, I should have went to the gun range to at least shoot it. Yeah. So I would at least know what I would be in for if I ever had to, man. But it was there, and it was in the house, and I was glad that it was there in case I needed it. And, my wife at the time, man, she wasn't all that enamored with having a gun in the house, but she was glad that I had it and that, it was my role to go get it and use it if someone was so emboldened to break into our house while we were there. But, man, I did not even own a pistol, a handgun, until in the aftermath of being robbed in my driveway in this nice, so-called neighborhood, man.
Yeah.
And it really caused me to just sit down and think what I was going to do in the aftermath. Because many years later, just a few years ago, there have been publicized stories of robberies and violent attacks happening in that community, and people have reacted differently. This one story that was on the news media, this one guy was so shook up in the aftermath of the robbery, and I get it, because I was shook up too, man. He contacted this security company to come out to his house with a full crew with guns and to supervise him putting all his belongings in a U-Haul truck and moved
Wow.
to some other community. He said, "Hey, I'm not safe here. I got robbed. I'm getting out of Dodge, and who knows? I'm going out into the suburbs somewhere, or maybe in the more exclusive areas of Detroit. Who knows?" But he hired a security crew to, make sure that he could safely pack his stuff up so he could move. In some places, in some communities, not necessarily in Detroit, you hear of people who suffer violent crimes, man, and they just walk away from the house.
Yeah.
Whatever equity they have built up in that house and in that parcel of real estate upon which they house sit, man, they just walk away and just resign themselves to start over somewhere else from ground zero, because they made the determination that their personal safety was the most important thing. And the actions and the losses that they took in exercising that option, it's a tough pill to swallow. And yeah, it's a big financial hit. But, in the aftermath of my robbery, of me being robbed, moving was something that I considered doing,
Yeah. Well, now, how that first night when that happened, did you go to sleep that night? Like, what was it like?
Man,
Because
let me tell you about being a victim of crime, man.
Yeah.
Being a crime victim, we got a buddy, one of our super friends who was a crime victim. And I know we've had a lot of discussions on it, man. If you're the victim of a violent crime, man, you can go into a state of what they call hypersensitivity, hyper awareness. And it was a long period of time, maybe a month or month and a half, maybe even 2 months, in which I just was not right, man. It was like anything that moved or made a sound, I was like jumpy, and I thought something was there that was going to affect or impact my safety, man. And I was a walking ball of nerves, man. It was probably the most unsettling thing in the world. And if there's anybody out there who has been the victim of a violent crime and can really relate to what I'm saying, it's a physical / psychological thing that I know I went through, man. And it was almost as if, okay, my body and my brain was like, you live in a new world. The world you lived in prior to this incident, that world doesn't exist. You now have a deeper understanding of your environment and what's out there. And you need to be on edge and on alert at any second and be ready to do something, And well, what something are we talking about? Well, that something or that response is determined by your level of knowledge and your level of training. Now, in the CPL concealed pistol license class that I teach, there are, a variety of ways to respond to a violent encounter. You can fight, okay, either physically or otherwise. And I'm looking at the gray on you, which is, superseded by the gray on me.
Right.
My best, I can still get out there and scrap if I had to, man. But I'll tell you, at 54, that's how old I am now.
Yep.
My best fighting days are probably beyond me.
Yep. And I'm about 6 months away from 50 myself, so I get it.
So and not only do I have to protect myself, I have to protect who's ever with me.
Yep.
My children now at this station in life are all adults. However, I do have grandkids. And let's say hypothetically, what if I had a couple grandkids with me? Then I am responsible for their safety too. So you have the fight response to a violent encounter. Flight, that means running, man. So if, let's say hypothetically, if I'm with my grandkids, or let's say if I'm dating someone and I'm out on a night on the town and something happens, you probably could not run and leave your date or your grandkids to fend for themselves while you go run, selfishly only, thinking of yourself, whatever's going to happen, you got to stay there and see it through, right?
So, that's right. And for most of us men, you automatically are ready to sacrifice yourself for the person that you're with if necessary.
Oh man, that is so heroic and so noble. You know, but if you don't have the skills and the tools and the awareness and the ability, you know, the physical strength and the knowledge on how to do certain things or have a gun, man, you know what? There are some consequences that you don't have to subject you to. That if you had a gun, you know, you have more options, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the other response to a violent encounter is the posture, you know. Well, what is this posture thing that you're talking about? Well, sometimes, well, you're old enough to remember, man. There's this phrase, this term called fronting, right?
Yes.
You know what it is to be fronting,
yes.
right? You know, you could play like you, Mr. Bad, Billy Bad self, and you could say, "What? What you got? You know what? You want this for real?
Right.
What? Huh?" You know, as you make your way back, you know, it's kind of like one of those Richard Pryor scenes, you know. Yeah, we bad. Yeah, we tough, we bad. But there's two other responses to a violent encounter, man, and those are the ones that aren't, you know, so nice. You know, we're basically talking about, you know, dying, man. You might actually die, you know, or that's called submitting, you know. You just totally give up. If they pop the trunk and say, get in, you're going to climb and get yourself into the trunk and be carted away to some other secondary location, man. And whatever they have planned for you, it's going to happen, man. And unfortunately, some of the consequences of these crimes, man, don't result in good outcomes. You might actually die.
Which kind of leads me into my next question about your event. And of course, this podcast will have a long life, but the event is coming up in July where you are teaching women how to shoot a gun for free. What gave you the idea for that? And what gave you I don't even know what the proper word is, because I know at first you said, story? Yeah, at first you said the first year you did it was 50 and people were like, great. And you're like, no, that's not enough.
I mean, you know what, man? I was a firearms instructor now, right? We're fast forwarding my personal walk and my personal journey, right? My origin story, right? I'm not Bruce Wayne, but yeah, I'm Rick, right? And I've been a firearms instructor for a while, very comfortable and fluid with guns, you know, handguns, rifles, shotgun, firearms instructor, man, out here, you know, preaching to everyone in my community that they need a gun, man. Even anti-gun people. If I ran into you, man, I wanted to talk about it. I'm like, you anti-gun? Look, you need a gun, man. For real. You could get robbed, man, in your own driveway. Ask me how I know, right? Dude, you say you don't want a gun. Look, you need one, man. And you know what? It didn't matter, man. Whoever you were, I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah, I paid a social cost for that. You know, some people, you know, say, oh, there's that Rick guy. All he wants to talk about is guns, right? So anyway, that's where I was, you know, a while back, man. And I've become much more sophisticated now. I don't, you know, use the bully pulpit. I pretty much just make myself known for this. And if you want to do this or pursue it, my goal is to be top of mind so that you'll find me and say, hey, I want to come see you as opposed to someone else because I've heard something about you. But so it's during that era, man. This is like 11 years ago. And I was watching the local news and I saw a story that was very disturbing. It was a body had been found. It was a woman's body had been found on the street in a field. And it was partially closed, naked. The woman was obviously sexually assaulted, and she was murdered and killed. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, this news story has happened again a lot recently in Detroit, man. And when they happen nowadays, and I was like, hey, this is like that story I saw 11 years ago that influenced me to try to do something in my community to make a difference. And so in the aftermath of me seeing that first body, of a woman on the street after it had been raped, she had been raped and killed and thrown away, man. That's literally what she was. She was thrown away. I was really wondering that, man, somebody should do something about that. And I thought about it. It was almost as if it haunted me, man.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a lot of different people in and out of the gun community, man. And my mentor, Ken Blanchard out of Maryland, man, I was talking with him, and he said, look, man, whatever you come up with, run it by me, man, and I'll help you and support you however I could. And so during this era, I knew some other, firearms instructors. I've been a firearms instructor for a while now. And, I came up with an idea. I say, hey, let's do a free shooting lesson for women, man. Let's go to a range, work out a deal with a range, and let's use our guns. Let's provide the ammo. Make sure we can negotiate range fees. We want this thing to be free, right? Mm-hmm. All a woman has to say is like, look, I'm interested. I'm making the assumption that they have no familiarity or experience with guns. Look, we'll make sure you have everything: safety equipment, hearing plugs, safety glasses, a gun, ammunition, target. We'll do everything. So I was publicizing the event, man, all on social media. I had successfully entered that phase when I was like leaving MySpace, right? Who all still has a MySpace page? There's somebody listening to this interview that don't even know what MySpace is, right? But so I was making that migration to MySpace, to Facebook, and a few other social media platforms, and I was really doing all I could to get the word out. And to my surprise, I was able to convince 50 women to show up that first year. Wow. And me and 4 or 5 other firearms trainers, we trained those 50 women for free. And, I felt really good about it. I will confess, I was thinking maybe we were going to do 100, Man, that would have been better. 200 would have been even better, right? So yes. I had these wild ideas about, what type of immediate impact that we were going to make, quickly. Everybody wants things to happen quickly. Like, when do you want it? I want it now. I wanted it yesterday. But we made an impact, and we have shared some things with some people, particularly with some women, man, and gave them some options and something to consider. Now, of the people who take us up on this program, like that first maiden voyage on that first free women's shooting event, you may find that it's not for you, okay? And here's the thing. That's the whole point of this event. Find out if this is for you, if it can work for you. Is it something that you're willing to consider? So here's the thing. Let's assume the worst case scenario. You came, you experienced the whole shooting thing. You learned about firearm safety. You learned a little bit about the responsibility that goes along with it. And let's just say you didn't like it at all, right? That's a rare outcome, but let's say that this is your outcome. Okay, it's still a good experience for you because you still learned something. And 2, you still know that it's still a bad world out there and you need to find another solution for you.
Right.
You at least on some level pursued personal protection by investigating guns a little bit, right? Okay, and so if that isn't for you, okay, you need to find another solution. Now you don't have to waste any time, any headspace, any time thinking about a gun. You need to find another solution. So find that other solution that works for you. But for the vast majority of people, they come away from the experience like totally enthralled, excited. Because I'm going to tell you, man, shooting a gun is a lot of fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, it
is fun, man. and some people just don't realize how much fun it is to actually shoot. And so you're actually having fun and you're starting to acquire the basic building blocks of personal protection.
Yeah.
You know that a gun will definitely come in handy if protecting you, your home, and your children is important to you. But, you know, there's a lot of other things that go along with, you know, gun ownership, like the responsibility part and learning the law part, things that you're not going to get in this, you know, free women's shooting experience. You're not going to get all of that.
Now,
That
I was
get
there.
from a CPL class.
Yes, indeed. I was there. I believe that was 2019. I shot some footage for a documentary that I'm working on about Black women. And I'm gonna tell you what, from my perspective, from what I noticed, first of all, is when I got there and there were all these guys from the guy was there from an ammo company. There were other guys from NRA, other instructors. I was shocked, first and foremost, at how nice everybody was and how willing they were to give and help. But the other amazing thing that I saw was women being empowered, man. When they came out of that, what is it called in the part where they actually shoot the guns?
Out of the shooting booth, the shooting
When
stuff,
they came out of the shooting booths and they had those papers that they had used for target practice.
Right.
Oh my God. And they're like, look, I grouped my shots here together. And if somebody comes for me, I'm going to get them.
Right.
That was amazing to see.
Priceless, right? Could have bought the world for a quarter, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, if you've never shot a firearm, let me tell you, if it's done correctly, right, and safely, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. You never forget it. But yeah. And so, yeah, I want to recreate that experience for a lot of people, you know, those who haven't had the opportunity for whatever reason. And, you know, here's the great thing about this program. You don't even have to know someone that has a gun or that is into guns. You can just show up. And one of the great things about showing up, there's a networking component of the experience that kicks in. You know, you're in this venue, you know, at the gun range, you know, meeting people you never met while you're in line, while you're having the safety briefing. And you're actually meeting people who are the same as you, woman who's curious about guns, probably starting at ground zero. And you can make a friend there and, you know, follow this journey together. You know, you don't have to figure out how you're going to walk this new phase in life all on your own. You got a new buddy that's at the same place you are, and y'all could walk that path together, you know, holding hands and singing a song,
that
carrying
natural
a gun, right?
Sisterhood that women have.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the next level of sisterhood, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, how does this fit into, so you hear, because we kind of got two different things going on with guns and gun rights and stuff. You got all the national stuff, you know, people trying to take rights away, but then you also have what we talked about, which is the real stuff in the trenches, the people who live in the city who live in a metropolis that need to protect themselves and their family. How does what you do fit into the current narrative where people are afraid of school shootings and mass shootings and things like that, and using that as
let me tell you, I am no different than anyone else. A disturbed person acquires a firearm for, you know, however he does it, whether it's a person who is statutorily prohibited from having guns or whether it's a person who still have their gun rights intact. The thing that they have in common is that there's something wrong with them, man. If you think it is normal for a person to take a gun to a place where children are vulnerable and to try to hurt them, harm them, and kill them, yeah, you have a problem. There's something wrong with you. What I've noticed, though, in following these stories over the years, because obviously I have a native inherent interest in following these stories, man, is that someone knew something about that person well before the event happened, man. And you know what? Nothing was done. And so when we have these places like schools where the vast majority of folks, the students, are vulnerable because there's no one there to protect them there, then, you know, how do we best safeguard them. And, there are some people that think, hey, let's take away all the guns in society and let's create all these gun laws and there won't be any guns. Well, no, there'll still be guns there. Like we don't have any poppy fields or, grow heroin and cocaine in this country, right? That's a crop we do not grow. But guess what? It's here.
Yep.
And it's always going to be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or man, you went to high school here, right?
Yes, Cooley.
Same here. We're alumni,
yes.
Right?
Go Cardinals.
Right. So, if you came through the era I came through, class of 84, man, we had a no-nonsense principal who did not play. We had, and you know what? The entrances were chained from the inside with chains. So we had no real emergency exits in this school. Yeah. The whole point was to keep other people out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you hear about these incidents, these mass shootings where somebody had a door propped open so someone could slip in with a gun and start killing folks. Well, in Detroit, like, man, what was that? 30, 35 years ago? How many years ago was that?
Yep.
They broke the law and chained the doors closed
to
keep you from coming in.
Yeah.
And you know what? We also had dedicated police officers and security. And guess what? We had metal detectors. We walked through a metal detector before we went to school, right?
Yep.
To make sure that there were no guns on campus, no gunmen, and no one got shot at school. And guess what? Man, it worked.
That's right. It did.
And so here we are, 35, damn near 50 years later, right? And we're still wondering how we're going to safeguard our kids, right?
Uh-huh.
Man, we had the answer at Cooley years ago.
That's right, we did.
And no one had the right to be able to carry a gun outside their house, at least on a concealed basis. Open carry has always been legal, but there was that whole thing about, open carry and having to educate the police and the power structures in Detroit that we have the right to do it and that we're going to do it. And eventually over time, the gun rights movement here in Detroit got them to publicly acknowledge that and change their internal processes. But yeah, man. So going back to the schools and sensitive property, sensitive areas, man. Yeah. So some people are of the mind that we shouldn't have guns in school, even by security people, even by police. And you know what? That's your opinion, and I have a different one, right? I believe that if we have trained personnel of some sort there who have access to a gun, that if some crazy dude wants to come in and shoot up the place and kill kids, there's someone there immediately to handle that and address that. Okay. And once criminals or disturbed people who want to do this evil, because there's no other way to characterize it, on school property with our most vulnerable citizens, know that it will be shut down immediately and you will face severe consequences immediately, and you might not even survive immediately. You know what? Maybe you'll do that evil somewhere else, and then we can have a debate on whether we should allow guns in churches, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? The law allows you to have a gun in church if you have the permission of the presiding religious official for that church.
I did not know that.
If your pastor wants to allow you to carry a gun at church, you can. I suggest getting in writing, right?
Yeah.
You shoot someone, you shoot one of the deacons, right? He might not remember that he gave you permission, right? So
Right. That's interesting.
Many churches now have their own security details where they have designated people with guns in church. So yeah, we live in a very interesting time, man. And we need to figure out what we're going to do to make sure that our most vulnerable citizens are safe. And if you're in a gun-free zone, you are in an inherently unsafe place because the bad guys know that you can't defend yourself if you're law-abiding. And if they are so twisted enough to want to kill a lot of people, that's where they're going to go.
Yeah. Now, I was doing some research before the show. Because one of the questions that I was going to ask you was, you got countries like Japan or Canada where it's illegal to own a gun and the murder rates are lower. Something interesting that I found, though, while I was doing my research is in countries where guns are banned or are outlawed, there still have been mass attacks using weapons like knives or other things.
Mass swords. I mean, people are still getting severely hurt, injured, raped, and killed all over the world, even with gun laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have a violence problem. We do. We have a bad person problem. We have a crazy, psychotic, disturbed person problem, right? We do. Mm-hmm. Evil exists, man. And that's a topic some people don't feel comfortable with. Some people just refuse to acknowledge that evil exists and it's out there. And if at your worst possible moment, it can come for you. In my case, it came for me in my driveway. My driveway, right? I've been all over the area. Went to, Sterling Heights to work at a manufacturing facility, drove all the way home, and trouble was waiting for me in my driveway. So, yeah.
Because what were you, if I remember the story correctly, pretty much you pulled in the driveway and they were there waiting for you?
Well, I pulled into my garage and parked my car, and I was listening to the Parliament Funkadelics for a song or two, right? And I came out and was locking up, and I heard, two guys right there, hey, you know what this is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, wow, is this what I think this is? Oh, man, wow, snap.
Yeah.
Wait. I'm being robbed at gunpoint in my own backyard, man. And when I tell people I got robbed in my own backyard, they're like, how did you get robbed in your own backyard? I'm like, easy. Easy. You pull in, somebody may or may not be following you, right? You clueless because you don't have your sense of awareness. You get out and they get out and they wait on you. You come out and they pull out the gun and they rob you.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever else they got planned for you. Obviously, they didn't kill me, but I'm still here, man.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they didn't follow you into the house.
Well, man, here's the thing. It wasn't so much follow me into the house. That actually came up during, the robbery. Because they didn't get much. And, most robberies, you don't get, you're not going to change your life after a street robbery, right?
Right.
You're lucky if you get something on the order of $40, right? I mean, in this era of $5 a gallon gas, $40 isn't going to get you very far.
That's right.
Nowadays, anyways. But they saw the outcome of their violent crime, their robbery. It was about $40. They got I think I was wearing a gold chain at the point. Since then, I've never worn a gold chain, man.
No more jewelry.
Like you got gold chain necklace? You?
Huh?
You wear a necklace? Like
no, I don't wear any jewelry.
Man, I don't wear any jewelry, any gold, man, at all. So anyway, they were like, let's go in the house, right? And I at the time the robbery happened, man, I had not had the benefit of any formalized personal protection training. Of course, in the CPL class that I teach, we talk about, things that you don't do, right? Look, letting a bad guy into your house at gunpoint is an extremely dangerous and bad idea, man. So I hadn't had that training, but I just knew inherently that was just stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not I probably shouldn't say stupid, because there have been some people who have been led into their own house at gunpoint, and I'm denigrating them by, calling them stupid. They were concerned and they were scared and they wanted to comply. So let's just say that, man.
Yeah.
Let me be a softer, gentler version of Rick, right? And so I just knew that going into my house at gunpoint, man, it did not seem like the solution for me. And so I made a decision. I have a personal code, right, as an adult. My personal code tells me that, one, I don't need to lie to anyone about anything, right? And here's the thing. If I'm embarrassed about something you asked me about, guess what? I don't have to answer you.
True.
Man, that is so liberating, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to interview me about something, because if I don't want to talk about it, it's none of your business, and I don't want to talk about it. Now, if I don't give you an answer and that makes you feel some kind of way, then okay, maybe you have a decision in the aftermath of my non-answer. Maybe you need to do something because you didn't get an answer. But here's the thing. I don't owe you an answer, and you may not get one if I don't want to talk about it. So as it relates to this robbery, I violated a personal code. I decided at that time it was okay for me to break my code, to break character, and for me to tell a lie, right? I told a whopper. I said, look, man, I don't care about you guys. I don't know you. You're robbing me. I got people in there. There's guns all over the place. It's going to be a bloodbath. You come in, right? I'm not worried about y'all. I'm worried about them.
Yeah.
You tell me what y'all want to do, man.
Yeah.
I was a convincing liar, dude. They bought it because I was.
That's great.
Up. Yeah, they bought it, man. They bought it. But here's the other thing. Since that idea, they were convinced from not following through on it. They decided that they had another idea. They decided that they wanted me to get into their car and then go with them to my bank, to my ATM machine, and take out whatever cash I could to give them. Again, I'm telling you, it's like a movie, man. That, in the absence of personal protection training, that did not seem like a good idea.
Yes.
To leave the scene with your abusers, your victimizers, and go with them to some other location so they can do another crime. Okay, so let's say I got in the car with them and we went to the ATM and I gave them however much money I could give them. Now we have a problem, right? What's the problem that the bad guys have now?
They don't need you anymore.
They don't need me anymore, right? So how do they get rid of or dispose of me? Are they going to give me a ride back home?
No.
I mean, there are some things that could happen now that they got what they want, right?
Yep, that's right.
And I'm not even at the house. I'm at the bank, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I teach this in the CPL Concealed Pistol License Training class. Don't go with anyone, any other place for any reason. And, some of the pushback you might get from people is, hey, they have guns. Yeah. Hey, I might get shot. Yeah, you might. But at least you got shot on your property, at your house, in your neighborhood, and maybe you might make it to the hospital and within a reasonable period of time. And I believe the metrics are, if you're shot only once, and of course, depending on where you're shot, and if you can get to the hospital within an hour, I think you have some good survivability rates, like 70%, 75%. So, I mean, obviously that doesn't cover you, you know, under every possible circumstance. You know, if they shot you in the chest, that's different than them shooting you in the head, or different than the punitive shooting where they shoot you in your buttocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear about people that get robbed, and it's always the guys. The guys get shot in the butt, right?
Yeah.
That's a real thing, man. It's kind of like how you close out a robbery. You do the robbery, you get the money, and you got to shoot them. You know, it's
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the format, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was solicited with this great idea to go to a bank in their car at gunpoint and to give them money. So again, I was faced with a moral dilemma, right? I told another lie, man. I told 2 lies in one night, man. I was breaking new ground, but I did it, man. And obviously, I was convincing, right? And so I told them that, hey, man, it's the end of the pay period. Married, kids. All I had was this last $40, and y'all took it, right? I told them, look, I don't even have lunch money tomorrow. And so I guess they took pity on me and left me, man. So
wow.
So in the aftermath of all of that, man, I had an epiphany. I had a coming to Jesus moment where I was going to evaluate my thoughts on guns and who gun owners are, you know, whether they're decent, hardworking, law-abiding citizens or whether they're lazy, depraved criminals who literally hunt humans for fun and profit, man. And I decided that I could handle being a responsible gun owner and took the necessary training and bought a gun, man, and applied for the concealed pistol license. And it took me a while to get it, you know, kind of like how things are in Wayne County now, because every other county in the metro area and across the state, you know, they're no longer using COVID as a reason not to give you your permit if you otherwise qualify for it. Wayne County is still dropping the ball. But you know what? On the one hand, I'm kind of glad. And you're like, well, gee, Rick, how is a gun rights advocate glad that their rights are being abused by their local representatives? I got you. You voted for that county clerk.
True.
She's been your county clerk for years, and she has always been bad on processing these concealed pistol license applications. Now, if her behavior is acceptable, then guess what? You deserve her because that's what you voted for.
That's right. Because a lot of people don't show up for those, especially for the smaller elections. They think, you know, only elections like voting for the mayor or voting for the president are the important ones. But the smaller elections are actually, in my opinion, just as important, if not more important, because those are the people that are legislating the immediate area where you live.
Consequences. You either actively voted for her or by default, she's your de facto result of your not voting. And see, I don't even get caught up in what political party she belongs to. That's not relevant. Is she doing the job? Is it acceptable? If let's just say, Chris, I meet someone and man, I decide that I know what love is again, and I decide I want to get married again, right? I don't know if that's going to happen, but let's just say hypothetically, theoretically, it happens, right? If I go down there and apply for a marriage license, I can still get one expeditiously. If I need a death certificate, I can get one expeditiously. COVID or no COVID, they found a way to make that happen. Mm-hmm. Why is there a problem that same office cannot time effectively process concealed pistol license applications? Explain that to me. Explain that one to me.
That doesn't make any sense to me if the other ones can be processed so quickly.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, so the podcast, of course, is all about helping people of color to level up. Give me your top 3 personal protection tips, whether you have a firearm or not.
Man, personal protection tips. Okay, I would say first and foremost, man, would be your level of awareness. You know what? Gun wasn't even number one, man, because if you had a gun in your possession and you were completely unaware, guess what? You have afforded yourself no benefit. You need to be aware of your environment. You need to know where you are and what else is there. And you need to be actively paying attention. You know, when I'm out and about, outside my home, wherever I may legally be, man, you'd be surprised how many people are walking around like zombies who are completely clueless as to what's going on. What they have on, their pods while they listen to music, or better yet, they're listening to our podcast.
Right. Yes.
They are like walking out in the traffic, almost getting hit by cars, walking in the ditches, walking in the holes, right, breaking legs and ankles. They're not paying attention. Not only do you have to make sure that you see any hazards, whether they're, structural, physical, or, an actual person, a bad guy who's trying to rob you, rape you, or kill you, you need to be aware of your environment. And 2, not only just mentally aware, you need to be situationally aware, right? What do you mean by situationally aware? You remember Sesame Street, right?
Yep.
They played this game called Some of These Things, right? They'd have 4 items. Let's say a hammer, a screwdriver, pliers, and a teddy bear. One of those things doesn't fit. Which one is it?
The teddy bear.
The teddy bear, right? Anytime you are outside of your home in an environment somewhere, you need to situationally assess your environment. That is, look for things that are out of place. Case in point, let's say you have places to be, you have an automobile, and you can afford $6 a gallon gas, right? You go to a gas station, you pull up. What are some typical things that you see people at a gas station doing at that location? What are they doing?
Pumping gas.
Pumping gas. Okay, what else are they doing?
You might see people emptying garbage out of their car, washing their
the
window with the squeegee.
What else? Squeegee in the windows. What else?
Yeah. Moving things around in the trunk or whatever, or going in to buy cigarettes.
Right. Okay. These are things that are typically associated with being at a gas station. That's normal because those are the things that we do at a gas station. If you look and you observe and you see someone not doing any of those things, you should get a tingle somewhere. Your spidey sense should go off, and you should ask yourself, well, why is that person there? Your victimizer, your abuser could be right there in plain sight, waiting for you to turn your head, stick your head into the car and start looking for something and expose your back. And they could pop you upside your head, take your stuff, take your car, take your valuables, be gone. And you could not even give a physical description of your attacker. Awareness, right?
Love it.
Yeah. Number one, man. Number one. Have a plan, man. Know how you're going to respond if a violent attack occurs. I mean, I already ran through some of the considerations, like fighting. Yeah, I can fight, man, but my best fighting days are beyond me. I'm coming to grips with that, man. I'm getting older. I'm getting grayer. I'm still, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can with what I got, man.
Exactly. Right.
So, so that's the concern. My best running days are behind me too, man. I can make a lot of noise and posture and try to scare the bad guy, right?
Yeah. Same
That
here.
might
Poke
work.
out my chest. Yeah.
It might not work, right?
Right.
I might stick my hand under my shirt and be like, dude, for real? Is this what you want?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say he doesn't leave, and let's say that's what he wants. Now what?
Right. Yeah.
You're laughing, man. I am so serious.
I know.
Now what?
Because I'm laughing because if I were in that situation, like you said, now what?
Now what?
Yeah.
He might be about that life too, right? So let's see.
So we got awareness and have a plan.
So knowing how you're going to respond is obviously another consideration. Reading body language, that will come in handy, you know. And I'm going to have a gun and be able to lawfully carry it and know how to operate it and defend yourself and learn the laws of self-defense. So
I love it. And for people who want to learn more about what you do and more about your information as we draw things to a close here, tell us about your class, what's involved in the class, and how they can take the class if interested.
So the class that I'm going to assume you're talking about is not the CPL class. This is the free women's shooting event experience that I provide every year. And this is the 11th season of doing this class. Wow. It will be held on Saturday and Sunday, the last weekend in July, the 30th and the 31st. It will be at 2 suburban huge gun ranges in Dearborn, Recoil Firearms, and Top Gun Shooting Sports. You need to register online for free. Registration opens a week before the event opens. So on July 23rd, hit the link, go register. I'm not nosy. All I want is your name and your email address. I have this computer program. It'll take your name and your email address, the only two information that they need, and it will generate an invitation and shoot it to your email. You can either print that out at the event when you show up at your appointed time, or you can just show it in your phone. You know what? And this is how we orderly process hundreds, if not thousands, of women across 2 gun ranges at the same time to empower a ridiculous amount of women. So where do they get this URL? I'm glad you asked, Chris.
That was my next question.
Right. How do they get this information? Let me tell you. Search for me, Rick Ector, and you will find me. We'll find you where? I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I even have a YouTube channel, 2,000 plus videos. I haven't made any in a while, but 2,000 videos and counting. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. If you can't find me, you didn't look for me. But let me tell you, my blog, legallyarmedindetroit.com. It has an acronym. Rick wants you to get laid. Legally Armed in Detroit. There will be links there. I have an event page on Facebook. The registration links will be dropped on that page. Go to my Rick's Firearm Academy page, Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit page on Facebook. Facebook.com/Michigan CCW. My personal profile is Facebook.com/Detroit CCW, right? I am everywhere. Go to my event page. Click the link to join the event page. You'll get notifications and updates. And when the links go live, I'll put the announcement there. Hey, remember you had an interest in this free stuff? This free shooting lesson? Sign up, register. You'll get your e-ticket. Life will be great. You'll show up and we're going to have a lot of fun.
I love it. Rick, thank you so very much for joining us today. It was great.
Wait. Has an hour passed?
Yeah, about an hour and 10 minutes, actually.
Oh man, we just was just having a good time.
We were, man, because we haven't caught up.
For more great content, follow Chris on Instagram at thinkchrislee or visit www.thinkchrislee.com.